Now, these guys got to know you, obviously. You were at all the shows. When you started seeing them, did they recognize you when you'd come up to them after a while?
Actually, no, I don't think so, because I kind of stayed to myself. I was very quiet. It would usually just be during intermission or after the show where, there'd be a group of people trying to get an autograph. So I probably just blended in with the crowd. I didn't really get to know any of the guys. So I would say no, they probably didn't know me, at that point. But I remember my mom and I talking to Johnny Justice, the Wild Thing Johnny Justice, right after Cumberland Fest ended that night where Bigelow and Anthony wrestled. And just talking to him about, I'm thinking about starting a public access cable wrestling show, and I'd love to get, guests on the show and that sort of thing. So I was trying to set up something, even though I didn't really fully know what I was going to be doing. I knew I wanted to do something with wrestling at that point. So Johnny Justice was really the first person that I kind of spoke to. Not just, I wasn't going for an autograph. I was actually having a conversation with him, and he kind of steered me the right way of who I needed to talk to. And he steered me to Stacy Lopes, who was at that time basically, I guess, one of the promoters. On top of being one of the wrestlers, he wrestled as Dane, one half of the Decolation. Dane and Darius were the Decolation. So he also wrestled with Iceberg. It was Iceberg and Inferno prior to that. But behind the scenes, he was one of the promoters of the NEWA slash UCW when they turned into UCW. And so, Stacy was the first, Johnny was the first person, got me to Stacy, and Stacy really was the first person to get me my interviews. I mean, he really hooked it up. He was very generous. He was super nice. We had a couple phone conversations, and he hooked me up with talent for my talk show, which I started in, I believe, September or October of 1998. I was 16 years old. So this would have been about a year later.
Okay.
And realized my dream of, just wanting to get involved. And so Stacy Lopes hooked me up with the very first show. As far as guests go, it was himself and his partner Darius, the Decolation, with their manager, Superstar Butch Petrillo. Also on that show was the Iceberg Sonny D, Bad Boy Billy Black, and Anthony Rufo. So it was a great lineup. I was beyond excited. Six local guys on the show. It was a big deal for me, and that was my first episode, and it went great, and kept on with it for many years. And for the first, 3 or 4 or 5 episodes, I would always go through Stacy for talent, and he got me the Reverend Shane Link on the second show, and Max the Butcher Brannigan, and Thrash, and just a host of others. So it was great. And eventually I went to a UCW show, which was started by Anthony Rufo, kind of branched out away from the NEWA. Stacy Lopes still being involved, in that organization. And I'm sure there were others involved behind the scenes. And they went to the Providence Country Day School in East Providence, Rhode Island. And that was probably 1998, the same year that I started the talk show. And so that was my first UCW show. And I believe for them, it was either their very first or second show anyway, under that banner. So it was pretty cool to be a part of that. And it was just down the street from my house, and gathered up more talent contacts at that show, and really kind of, started to get to know a couple of them. They would recognize me, and I would continue on to some of the UCW shows. UMass Dartmouth, they had a huge show with Head Shrinker Samu against King Kong Bundy, and Afa in the corner. That was the first time I saw Ebony Blade. And that was also the first time that I brought the camera from the studio and would do backstage interviews at the show. Not so much interviews at that point. It was being my first one. It was more promos, so I was getting all the guys to say, this is so-and-so, watch Joe's Hardcore Wrestling Talk Show, that sort of thing.
Yep.
But man, I was like a kid in the candy store, just getting involved and having anybody cut a promo for me. It was fantastic. Bundy and Samu both cut promos for me that night. So that was the first time also kind of being involved with the stars and getting them to do something for me. So it was a lot of fun, especially at 16 years old, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You were still in school and doing this on the weekends?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
This is King Kong when you ask what my plans are for Samu. My plans are the same as the Great Bundy's plans always are. To go straight at him and mow him down. And don't forget to watch Joe's Hardcore Wrestling, because King Kong says so.
Kick some butt. Me and Bundy went at it toe to toe, and that's the bottom line. But when you're in town and you're local, stay tuned to Joe's Hardcore Wrestling. Yeah.
You have any hopes at that point of running a league of your own? Or you were just happy having your own show and meeting the stars, and you were just happy doing that at the time, probably, right?
For me, it was anything wrestling. So anything that I could do to be involved. I remember going to a meet with Derek Destiny. I don't know if you remember old school Derek Destiny.
Oh, yeah.
So I went with him. He would often take me to shows. We'd drive around to shows. He was a great guy, very helpful when I first got into wrestling. Jose Perez, Anthony Rufo, Derek Destiny, Mr. Biggs. You know, there were a few that would constantly take me to shows. Obviously, if my mom couldn't or whatever it may be, but I would also go to so many shows with my mom. So if it weren't for my mom, I wouldn't have even gotten to half of these shows and made the contacts that I did. But yeah, Derek Destiny got me to, you know, some of those shows and got to meet more people and, you know, establish a relationship with a lot of the guys and just continued booking guests for, you know, the talk show.
By the sounds of it, your mother was pretty supportive and about the wrestling thing.
Oh, yeah. She just, you know, did anything she could to help me. You know, she knew I loved it and that was my passion. So she would take me to the shows early on. And, you know, if she didn't even want to watch the wrestling, sometimes she would just read a book or wait in the car if she didn't want to go to the show. I mean, she was very patient. She would bring me to all those shows far away and just wait the entire night. And, you know, she would get me every single pay-per-view. I never missed a pay-per-view. Once I started, you know, once we got cable in 1993, the Survivor Series in 93 was my very first pay-per-view that I got live. Obviously, I said I was getting all the Coliseum videos and stuff prior to that, so I had seen everything. But once I first got that pay-per-view, I did not miss a WWF pay-per-view. I didn't miss WCW. I didn't miss ECW. I had pay-per-view parties at my house, you know, for every single one, and huge get-togethers. It was awesome.
I say that because I was the same way with my grandmother, did the same thing, ordered every pay-per-view. And looking back now as an adult, I'm like, wow, you know, thank you. And I recorded everything. To this day, I get the tapes. I mean, you see me pulling the stuff out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, my grandmother ordered every one of these pay-per-views, let me have my friends over and drink all our soda. And, you know, as an adult thinking our kids do that now, that's a lot to put up with, bring you to the wrestling shows and all that, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, you know, my mom would take me to all the autograph signings as well. So back then, WWF would constantly do free autograph signings. So I met Jerry the King Lawler at Bob's stores, and I met Ahmed Johnson at Bob's. I met Owen Hart and British Bulldog at Fantasyland. 1-2-3 Kid and Savio Vega at Building 19. And, you know, there would be wrestlers everywhere back then. And Perella's Restaurant in Warren, Rhode Island, met Skip, Zip, and Sonny there. And Alpha Page, which was a pager shop, showing my age, I guess, was Chris Candido and Sonny were there, and the Godwins at Alpert's Furniture. And I mean, you name it. My mom would take me to every single signing. Got to meet Mark Merrow and Sable at a car dealership, and Mark Merrow and Sable again at Apex department store. So I was busy with that as well, always going to different signings.
Wow, yeah. See, I didn't even do all that. I just know the pay-per-views alone, paying for them, and and all that. You know, that's a lot looking back. And that what I had to buy me the blanket tapes, and I was we had I think 4 or 5 VCRs in the house. I was, if you know, Saturday mornings, what between world class, you know, I was juggling VCRs every day because there was a lot of wrestling on Sunday and Saturday mornings back then.
Absolutely. Every Saturday there was Superstars on you know, regular TV, and then there would be WWF Mania on cable on Saturday mornings. Sunday mornings you had Wrestling Challenge on regular TV, and then you had Action Zone on cable on Sunday mornings. So I would record all 4 of those every single week. And on top of that, obviously Monday Night Raw, Monday Nitro, WCW Worldwide, WCW Pro, Saturday Night, you know, all the Clash of the Champions. I mean, you name it, I taped every single last one of them.
Yeah, I mean, going back even further than that, 90 and 91 and 92, back with Sports Channel America. I don't know if you can remember that. That's back when I recorded this NWF, IWA, USWA, LPWA, Herb Abrams, UWF. Like all that stuff was on top of, you know, WWF had 5-6 programs. WCW had, oh, it was NWA back then, had 5-6 programs. So I had VCRs going all the time, and time is set, and don't turn the TV on, you know, you'll mess up my, yeah, it was a nightmare. So they had to put up with that.
I had the cable downstairs, and then upstairs in my room, I had a TV with just a few channels, you know, regular TV, all the fuzzy channels you're trying to flip through and see if you could make it out. And late night, I would see Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I would see USWA and ECW. I got to see those 3 on a regular basis, but they were kind of, you know, not as clear, obviously, as cable, but I'd watch the heck out of them anyway.
Well, I got ECW in 96, I think, on the Spanish channel at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And half the time it wouldn't be on. I'd come on like 10 minutes later, just scramble and come on. So you never knew.
Oh, yeah.
You had to sit there and wait and see if it come on, or you had to keep checking it. And if it wasn't on, it was something in Spanish. You had to sit there and wait.
Right. Yep.
And World Class back in the day, that was on UHF, where it was on the, you had to like get, you probably don't even remember it. You'd have to tune the thing in and play with the rabbit ears to get it in.
Oh, yeah. No, I had that as well. Yep. Absolutely.
So
yeah,
you might even had World Class and just not found it.
It's very possible. And at that point, I was so young, you know, I just didn't know about it, you know.
Right. And then after, actually, because, yeah, 90, 91, 92, they were on ESPN every day, every weekday at 4 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
They had the Legends of World Class, and they showed back from 86, 87, 88, 90 in order every single day.
Wow. Well, it's nice that they have a lot of that on the network now, so you can kind of go back and check out a lot of, you know, what I missed as a kid.
Yeah, they get the whole changeover into USWA and all that. I don't know if it's on the network. I don't have the network. I have it all on tape, so I don't bother getting the network. I have it all unedited, you know?
Right. A little bit. The whole ring announcing thing kind of happened by accident. I was at the Barton Street Community Center. This was probably in 1999 for UCW, and that's in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And basically, the ring announcer didn't show up or couldn't make it last minute, and it was also their sound guy. So they didn't have any sound equipment either. So they said, "Hey, Joe, you're here doing the, you know, filming with your camera, doing the talk show stuff, filming the matches. You know, what do you think about ring announcing tonight?" And I was like, "Oh man," I was a little nervous, but I was like, "You know what? Let's try it." And then I realized once I committed to it that the sound equipment wasn't there either. So I had to really speak up. So here I am in the ring with no microphone, no speakers, but luckily it was a small place. There were like 30 people in the crowd. But man, that was a thrill for me. Ring announcing at the show, and ring announcing, I guess, was always a passion because, you know, a lot of people look up to wrestlers and stuff in the wrestling business. the person that I looked up to the most was Howard Finkel. So Howard Finkel was everything. I was just amazed by his talents. And when I would play with the wrestling figures as a kid, I would emulate his voice as I would bring them to the ring. You know, so it was more about the entrance and him announcing them rather than the match itself when I'm playing with them as kids, you know. So it was all about the ring announcing aspect of it, I guess, early on. And then it just, you know, stumbled into my lap. Ring announce, they thought I did a great job and started booking me regularly for UCW. So at this point, I was 16, 17, somewhere around there. And I just started taking bookings left and right. Whether it was a paid gig, whether it was a free gig, it didn't matter to me. I just wanted to be involved. I wanted to learn. I wanted to, you know, travel to these shows. And so I was ring announcing for UCW, which was Unified Championship Wrestling. And that was the Anthony Ruffo, you know, events. But then I was also ring announcing for another UCW, which was kind of like a sister branch of them. And that was Ultimate Championship Wrestling. And that was in Worcester, Massachusetts, run by Bert Centeno, who ended up, he was also El Mascarado. So he kind of took me under his wing, even gave me my first ring announcing dress shirt, I guess you can say. He's like, here, put this on. My wife said, you know, you're going to look better in this. So, you know, put on the shirt. And the Boys and Girls Club of Worcester, Mass, the Friendly House of Worcester, Mass. We kind of travel around through all these different little venues in Worcester, Fitchburg, Leicester. It was cool, you know, ring announcing all different talents that in that area weren't really out this way. So getting to work for both UCWs, I got to work with some new faces like Slick Wagner Brown and Master Sandy and Latin Fury Luis Ortiz and Delicious Dave Vicious and the Dynamic Kid Louis Vega and GQ Smooth and, you know, all these guys that just weren't really in the Rhode Island area at that time. So it was cool to see a lot of other faces.
Them guys came out from the Worcester area, I take it, because I wasn't too familiar with them either till later on. They came out this way, I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was going to all the Rhode Island shows and I would never see any of them, you know, there. So they were more so, I guess, from the Massachusetts region at that time.
As far as the announcing thing, you're definitely voice of New England. You know, you and Palladino. Who else is there? You know.
Yeah, Rich Palladino is, you know, one of the best. He really is, and you know, that was another thing. He was helpful also because obviously we never looked at it as a competition thing between Rich and I. He kind of did his thing. At that time, he was kind of under contract with Chaotic Wrestling. So he was pretty much primarily Chaotic, where I was kind of bouncing around all over the place. But he also did some other ones like IIW, International Independent Wrestling. And he would recommend me as a fill-in for him for IIW, you know, when he couldn't make it. So I filled in, you know, maybe 2 or 3 times. Thanks to Rich. And I was thankful for that. Got me even more contacts. I mean, IIW is kind of more of the same. Anthony Ruffo was also a co-owner of that promotion, along with Tommy D, who was the owner of Power League Wrestling. So they kind of combined their efforts, along with some other, you know, backers. I don't remember at this point who it was, but yeah, Rich really hooked it up, and I kind of became Rich's replacement here and there. At the shows that I normally maybe wouldn't have ring announced. So,
Wasn't Tommy D a ring announcer also?
Tommy D was, yeah. He was not only the owner of Power League Wrestling, but he ring announced every show that he ran. He, you know, that was his passion for sure. His idol was Howard Finkel as well. He looked up to Howard, and it was cool because Howard. When Howard did my fan fest, he actually signed a microphone for Tommy. I remember seeing that as I was passing by, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I've only been to one Power League show, and I knew the people on it, but I didn't know who ran it or anything. And I was recording it, and I was like, you know, is it okay? And they were like, Yeah, it's the ring announcer, and I believe he was the ring announcer for South Coast SCCW or something too, and that's how I found out about it or something.
Yeah, for a while he was. Yeah, he was another one who would kind of bounce around different promotions, but it was more of a workload for him because he was running Power League at the same time, so he didn't get out there as far. You know what I mean?
But enough about him. This is about you. But that's how I got there, and somebody said it's his league or whatever. That's how I got there. But
Yeah, Tommy's a great guy, one of the good guys in the business, and you know, most of those Power League shows were charity shows, so he was always raising money for a good cause, and his locker room was always drama free. He always had just a great group of guys. It was kind of just a bunch of friends doing their thing. So
yeah, the one I went to was at like Saint Teresa's church or something like that. It was in a church.
yeah.
So from there, you went to your local Axxess. I'm assuming soon after that you started HWF sometime around there.
Yeah, it kind of started around the same time, really. So, you know, I started the talk show in, like I said, September or October of '98. I started ring announcing probably around the tail end of '98 as well. So everything kind of happened for me at once. My very first show was September of 1999. I ran that. It was Ring Wars is what I named it. I would always put a theme or a name to each show. So Ring Wars 99, it was at the American Legion in Riverside, Rhode Island. And wrestling was kind of territorial back then. There'd be a lot of animosity sometimes between different groups. I don't know. There was kind of a lot of drama here and there, I noticed, traveling to different shows. You know, I'm with one group one night, and then you hear them, you know, bad-mouthing another group, and then I'm with that group another time, and they're saying the same stuff. But what I tried to do at my first show was to kind of get bits and pieces from each promotion. And at that time, there wasn't really much of that. So it was a pretty unique event. The weather was horrible. The ring truck broke down at one point and was late getting to my event. So we got a late start. There was a Limp Bizkit concert at the Providence Civic Center that same night, which was, you know, 15 minutes from the venue. So anything that could have gone wrong kind of did, as far as, you know, getting a crowd there. But it was a small crowd, maybe 50 people. But, you know, it was just a fantastic memory, getting different people involved from all different promotions. So I had lots of guys there from NEWA, UCW, what other promotions?
Like I said,
people I had met in, you know, the Worcester area. So we had Thrash, we had Draven, we had Anthony Rufo, we had Mark Thunder, we had TJ Richter and Dr. Heresty, Derek Destiny, Don Juan DeSanto, Robbie Ellis. You know, it was just an interesting mix from all over. Suicidal Silva, the Vertebreaker. But on the first show, we had a hardcore match with Vertebreaker against Suicidal Silva. And the main event on my very first show was a barbed wire thumbtack match. And that was the Punisher Don Vega and Livewire Dave Padula with Jiggity Jen in their corner, I believe, against Jose Perez, and I guess that would have been Pretty Boy Hernandez, I believe, was Sandy Starr at ringside. So right off the bat, my very first show, you had one hardcore match and you had a barbed wire thumbtack match. But that's what was cool in that era. It was all about, you know, hardcore wrestling. So you got to have hardcore wrestling. And, you know, it was unique, that's for sure. Something different.
So you definitely went away from the 94, 95 Doink the Clown and TL Hopper stuff.
Right, exactly. Complete opposite.
Was that the show, or was there a show after that? Something about a broken window that you had to leave the building?
That was the same show, my very first show. So that was I had a talk backstage with all the boys before the show, and I said, well, before each match, and I said, you know, stay away from the windows. The Legion was very adamant about, do not touch the windows. Vertebreaker is like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, no problem. And of course, Vertebreaker throws Suicidal Silva right into the window. Thing shatters. Now I'm watching it. This is my first event, obviously, but I'm watching it not only as a promoter, but a fan of wrestling. And I'm watching it thinking, wow, that was intense. And then I'm thinking, wait, that's my problem now. If you want to get in the promoter game, things are going to happen and
Right.
you're going to be responsible. And I remember them paging me at ringside, would Joe Bruin please come to ringside? And I had to replace the window the next day. So it was an interesting experience, but all worth it. It was, great memory.
Now, do you have all your events on tape?
Yes, for the most part, most of them are on my YouTube page, which is All Axxess Entertainment, and that's Axxess with 2 X's. I've got, I would say 75% of it up already. And you can go to the, how it breaks down into different segments. You just click on HWF matches and it's got a full library there. So.
In your playlist section, right? That's what in the playlist section.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, going back to the you were talking about the ring announcing, how you always.
Yeah.
I just put up a NWF show the other day. You probably didn't see it. The old NWF from Philly. I put up a couple of them.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And Dick Worley was the ring announcer there, and that brought me back to my childhood. I don't know if you remember, Dick Worley used to announce for WWF back when I was a kid.
Oh, wow. Dick Worley. So, okay. I thought Dick Worley was a referee.
Oh, is it Dick Worley? Maybe I'm getting the name confused. What was his name? Who was the ring announcer before? Who was the ring announcer in the early 80s?
Before Howard?
Yeah.
Well, Gary Michael Capetta was there for a little while.
No, not him. I'm talking about like 82, 81, 83. Oh, I just seen him and I was like, nobody else probably remembers him but me. What was that?
It depends where they went. I mean, Bill Anderson was a referee for.
This is Philly. No, not refereeing, announcing, ring announcing.
Yeah, ring announcing.
Yeah, Philly area, around like here, from here to Philly.
Okay.
I'll come back to it. But I thought you'd appreciate it. Like, I'm like, oh, that's all WWF. I'm like, I'm the only guy that remembers that. Everybody else is probably like, who's he?
Right,
funny.
right.
I figured you'd remember it if anybody.
Yeah.
But so that was your first show. And your second show, is that when you moved to Seekonk?
Yes, because of the whole window incident, they didn't exactly welcome us back with open arms. So went to the American Legion in Seekonk. That was Massachusetts Massacre. That was in March of 2000. And at this point, I was doing a lot of traveling to other shows beyond UCW. So I was also kind of going to a lot of the Yankee shows, Yankee Pro Wrestling, with my camera and trying to get interviews backstage and that sort of thing. And Jose Perez would often take me to the Yankee shows. And, it was a lot of great talent in Yankee Pro Wrestling. So I kind of implemented some of that into this show with Alex Arion and Mike Steele and Brutal Bob Evans, Lucian Bagwell, a lot of fresh faces kind of added to this event.
I was trying to find my list of your shows that I taped with the match listings and all that. I had them right here a minute ago.
Oh, yeah.
So when I got to that, I could question on them.
Right. Yeah, that show was a great crowd. It was a pretty packed in there. And we had a 30-man battle royal. We had Derek Destiny and Brutal Bob Evans, who were the kings of old school. And they went against Mike Steele and Alex Arion. We had who else do we have? The Rage, Zach Mason, and Mr. Biggs teaming up against the Fabulous Bariquas, who were just awful. I mean, they said they were trained by Killer Kowalski. Somebody else vouched for them. I can't remember who now. They were not trained to wrestle by Killer Kowalski. That's for sure. We found out later on, actually, that it was a father-son tag team. And we found out later on the father was trained, semi-trained, to be a referee, not an in-ring performer. So, and it obviously, I'm sure, wasn't at Kowalski's school. So these guys were just awful, and they were stiff as hell. They had no idea what they were doing in there, and it turned into a shoot. So if you ever get a chance to watch that match on my page, it's Mr. Biggs and Zach Mason against the Fabulous Bariquas, and Biggs and pretty much just goes into business for himself, takes him down, shoots on him. You know, when he does the splash, he's doing the splash, won't even get up. He's just sitting on the guy's face. And it was bad. It was just bad.
Wow. And that was your first show in Seekonk?
That was my first show in Seekonk. Yeah, overall, it was a fun show, but just that match was rough with those Fabulous Bariquas. So, and the main event that night was Live Wire Dave Padula and the Vertebreaker in a barbed wire thumbtack match. And there was also a hardcore match, Suicidal Silva versus TJ Richter that night. There was a triple threat match, Shane Simons, the American Eagle, against Prince Ivan Zangveen and Don Juan DeSanto. So it was an interesting mix. Guys from Power League, guys from Yankee, UCW, you know, everybody in Rhode Island and Massachusetts were kind of represented. So.
That Prince Ivan, where did he come from?
Prince Ivan, the first time I saw him, he was one half of Sick and Twisted with Matt Storm. So Matt and Prince Ivan, I believe at that time, were in UCW. And they may have crossed over a little bit into IIW around that same time frame. And I believe Prince Ivan also wrestled for Power League in a singles role as well. And they were managed by Faith. But Faith and Prince Ivan kind of vanished shortly after that. They didn't really, you know, last too much longer. So I'm not sure. Must have just left the business completely.
Okay, they were on at least one more show of yours, right? Because I seen they were actually on Primal TV, but it must have been your show with them. And there was a 666, the Swamp Zombie or something. Was that your show? It looked like it was your show.
Not with the Swamp Zombie, no.
Oh, no? Oh, okay.
No. Yeah, that would have been maybe NCW.
Oh, maybe.
Possibly. JC Marks used to run that.
Yep.
Or still runs it, actually, to this day. But
yep.
I want to say that was probably NCW, if I had to guess.
Oh. Had Vert on it, too, and Thrash, and it's on Primal TV, but it don't look like Primal unless it's a Primal show. I mean, right on their first shows, like when they first started.
I'll have to check that out. I know everybody would kind of mesh together, so you'd see a lot of the same guys on everybody's
It looks
shows.
like Seekonk.
Okay. So if it was Seekonk, sometimes, like I said, NCW, sometimes they would run Seekonk as well.
Okay.
So it's very possible that it's them.
I just assumed it was you. I was like, oh, that's probably Joe right when they were starting to use the footage to get the TV up and running or something. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, that one wasn't mine.
Adam Hasty was on it, and Ivan and 666. I'd never seen that guy before. And Ivan, he was in a couple matches. Don Juan, Kid Crazy was little guy on it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Kid Crazy was good. He was his real name Jared. He was definitely one of the better guys around that time. He was a good talent.
Okay, so up to this point, we've kind of been going over your wrestling stuff and your personal collection. What have you been doing in this time from, I'm sure that's been building also.
Your promo photos and stuff, you mean?
Yeah, anything like going to the shows, getting autographed, meeting wrestlers, getting your collection going. What have you been doing on that side of things?
During that
From
time period?
from that first photo at that Indy show till you're starting
Oh,
HWF, what is built?
actually, it's funny. Once I actually got involved and was a ring announcer and stuff like that, I stopped. I was no longer collecting, autographs at the shows and stuff like that. At the shows that I did anyway, or that I was involved in. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess because I was part of the show, I wasn't really doing that anymore. I was still a collector per se with WWF, merchandise. But on an indie level, I was now that I was working with these guys, I not asking for their autograph anymore, so I wasn't really collecting much of anything.
No, I just meant overall as your personal life, not Indy's level, but I just mean what were you collecting on the side?
Oh yeah, so I mean, I was still involved with WWF promo photos at that time. Magazines, I didn't miss an issue. I mean, I was always a magazine guy. So even when I didn't have cable early on, that's how I learned about a lot of the wrestling. So PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Inside Wrestling Magazine, The Wrestler, WOW Magazine, New Wave Wrestling, WWF Magazine, WCW. I had every single one. If I saw it on the newsstand, I would get it. My mom would get it for me. I was very lucky with that. I mean, I had hundreds and hundreds of wrestling